Weird things were happening with that most recent Joe Rogan podcast. But guess what, folks? Something even more interesting now is happening. Despite all of the strangeness, despite the supposed glitch, the episode now is exploding once more on YouTube and more platforms. Today, we'll tell you why that's a good thing and why we're hopeful that Joe Rogan has brought about an entirely new dawning of an entertainment horizon where the corporate news media no longer control what you're allowed to see, think, and enjoy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. We are here to give you the kind of in-depth analysis that you are so desperate to find, and we're happy to give it to you with a passion that Holly Weird simply cannot understand. As we get ready to dive into today's complex and yet not partisan or political, but philosophical conversation, consider clicking the like button. Without further ado, here's the panel. All right, folks, it's time to go to our next story, and that is the Joe Rogan Experience. We've been covering this, and it's not because we want to get into politics or partisanship. It has to do with the fact that we're very interested in the evolution of entertainment and where it's going. I believe, based on what we've been watching, that podcasts and YouTube and perhaps the green machine, if you know what I mean, I think that the democratization across these platforms, including, by the way, X, I believe this is the future of entertainment. I think that the stranglehold that corporations have held on the market is beginning to go away. They simply cannot stop the market from winning with the internet. And take a look at this. We talked about the situation earlier where all of a sudden, this Joe Rogan episode that I had said would be the biggest Joe Rogan episode ever for about 24 hours, it was very, very difficult to find. That has been alleviated. But I had said as a result that it now was unlikely that this would reach the heights that it could have had. And yet, something is happening. And that thing that's happening is, despite what would and should be happening with the algorithm when it comes to bringing back a video from the dead, well, this one is soaring in spite. And what do we mean by that? Well, in 4 days, it's reached 41 million views. Now, we've looked before at the top Joe Rogan Experience episodes on YouTube, and we know that 69 million is what it would have to beat. At its current pace, and even despite one of these days having been one of those you can't find it days for some reason we can't understand, if it keeps on this track, then certainly within 2 weeks, it should become the biggest Joe Rogan episode ever. And that's really saying something for a video that's had this kind of a situation, and a video, by the way, that will beat the records in 2 weeks as opposed to the years that some of these others take to do so. Now, keeping things, again, completely away from politics whatsoever, take a look at this out of New York Post. Joe Rogan to interview, man, this is all kinds of weird. Joe Rogan to interview J.D. Vance after Kamala Harris refused to meet him in Austin studio. This is by Emily Crane. Here's what it says. Joe Rogan is slated to interview former President Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, on Wednesday. That's yesterday, essentially now, after their opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, has so far missed out by refusing to meet the mega popular podcaster in his Texas studio. The Republican vice presidential nominee is scheduled to meet with Rogan in his studio in Austin on Wednesday morning, days after Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience exploded online. With well over 39 million views on YouTube, despite accusations it was being hidden. Vance's appearance comes after Rogan revealed he turned down a similar chat with Harris after the Democratic presidential nominee wanted him to travel to her and for their chat to last just a third of the 3 hours he had with Trump. Now, guys, I'm not here to send us into a political discussion, but rather I'd like to have a philosophical discussion with the panel. What I'd like to ask you guys is, I love that Donald Trump was part of a conversation with Joe Rogan for 3 hours. It gave insights into someone that people have the potential to vote for. I love that J.D. Vance is going to do the same. I love that this is getting monumental viewership because that's engagement with the electorate. What I would like to see, and I hope to see, because I'm not trying to be partisan here, I hope that Harris, despite the fact that we're now running out of time rapidly, I hope that Harris will go on the Joe Rogan Experience for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. I hope that Waltz will go on the Joe Rogan Experience. And by the way, I hope that in the future this becomes the norm. I hope that we will see in the future podcasts take over and that we have normal, long format, reasonable, rational conversations, human conversations between those who wish to govern us and those who are great at communicating with us, and that we get away from the formats of the legacy dinosaur media where we force people into these very synthetic 8-minute kind of time frames. All the questions seem to be formulated in order to maximize ratings. And the real way to maximize ratings is to sit down and just talk. And I love it. I want to see more of it. Guys, what do you think? Are we headed in that direction? Do you think that this whole situation with Joe Rogan might be the turning point in the way that we handle elections going forward?
I think that it's interesting that this is happening when Bezos essentially tells the rest of the media, hey guys, if you haven't been paying attention for the last batch of years, anytime the public gets polled, corporate media is only slightly less hated than Congress. Now it is more hated than Congress. Really since 2004, the media has been very open about playing sides. And I think as a regular person who's trying to get information, we have all been raised and taught that the media is unbiased, and we want the ability to think for ourselves, not be told how to think or be told that what we're thinking is wrong. And I think people have gotten frustrated, and with 2016, we started seeing the rise of the podcaster. I think during the beer bug, I think legacy media saw for themselves the power of alternative media in terms of sorting out, being able to look for information from different sources that you could vet yourself, which is why I believe YouTube made a lot of the changes it made, was to kind of throttle that power that you guys like you were never supposed to have. And now people are fully aware. I have the ability to choose my media. I can pick people that I trust to give me the information that I want, not based off of my ideology, but because it's information I feel I need to have to make an informed decision. And hopefully this is the trend. If legacy media chooses to learn from it, who knows? FDR did a horrible thing when he used the muckrakers to get rid of his opponents, not clean up the quality of news. And those chickens, although it took a very long time, they came home to roost.
It's a very, very long time. And I would say, guys, that I'm always trying to be optimistic, but I see two paths going forward. Either there's going to be a crackdown from the oligarchs to shut down the free discourse that we're seeing, or we're going to get maximal conversations and communications between people at every level of society. I hope for the latter. Guys, is there any reason I should not be hopeful right now? Do you see any kind of reason to perhaps think that this could go the other way?
Well, I think that the main reason that I would say would be to not be hopeful would be because the legacy news media is not going down without a fight, and it's not going to learn the lesson of competition the way it's supposed to and get better and become more middle of the road, as you like to say, sensible center, mainstream middle. It's just going to try and silence the voices that are rising up to stop them, which is like what you kind of saw here with Joe Rogan. Now, as far as her going on Joe Rogan's show, I definitely think she should. I don't think she will. I think a guy like Joe Rogan, I think it's a fascinating thing to have the same show interview both presidential candidates. And a guy like Rogan, he's not going to play the favorites game. He'll ask tough but fair questions to both, and you'll be able to get a lot more out of that than you would get from her being on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert for 10 minutes. Sitting down with a guy like Joe Rogan for 3 hours, that's something that can actually sway some voters. Going out on Stephen Colbert and telling a couple jokes is not going to do it while he lobs you softball questions. Going on Joe Rogan, sitting down for 3 hours and having an in-depth discussion on policy, that's a way for voters to actually get to know a candidate. And, it should be in a fair world, a no-brainer for any candidate to want to do that.
Lauren, to a huge audience now. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. You've expressed why you would like to see us go back to the Lincoln-style debates. Could you explain that one more time for folks who might not have heard it before?
So I agree with your position that the long format interview with Joe Rogan is a good thing, and I think that it would be better for the Republic if going forward candidates did something like this. But it's also important to have debates that are also long form, and I would argue probably without a moderator, because what you want to see is not a bunch of rules getting in the way about what we can talk about, how long we can talk about it, and all of that stuff. I'm very annoyed by the idea that we have something like 3 minutes for a response to a question, 2 minutes for a response, and then 1 minute for a rebuttal. What you want to see out of your candidates is them talking about their positions, showing how they arrived at them, and seeing whether they can think on their feet to justify their positions and to articulate what their vision is, and see when they're challenged how they react to it. Because part of this whole deal is you're going to be dealing with adversaries on the world stage. And if you see somebody having to deal with an adversarial position where you don't have a moderator there to rescue you, that tells you maybe how they're going to react on our behalf. And it's important to remember that that is on our behalf. Are you going to get flustered? Are you going to be able to articulate and put your vision forward and hopefully destroy your opponent's position? That's something that you only get through vigorous debate, and it informs the public. And I think that that's something that we're lacking right now. So I do like the long form, but I would like to see more rigorous debates in place. Rigorous in the sense that you're actually challenging the candidates without having a middleman moderator there. That's what I think would be most useful.
Ron, Nolan, guys, it seems to me that part of this story has to be that X stepped in, that Elon Musk somehow, and I don't know how he did it because I don't know how the contract works with Rogan and Spotify and YouTube, but Musk stepped in and hosted the entire episode. And that kind of put the kibosh on any efforts to stop this thing. And I don't know that there was ever any effort. Legitimately, it could be a glitch. We just don't know. But I think that Elon Musk really has stepped in and made it such that if you try to stop, if you try to shadow ban, if you try to diminish a point of view, he's there to be the Streisand effect in Spain.
He wants to get free speech out there, and I think that's one of the greatest things about that's one of the biggest points that Elon has made, is that, and it's kind of ironic that he's the one making the point when you have a particular side of the aisle specifically saying that if this other side gets in power, they're going to destroy democracy, they're going to eliminate democracy, and yet this side is going on Joe Rogan, right? They're talking to Joe for 3. I think that, there's a lot of people who might not be that much tuned in to politics. They like my wife, she hates watching political stuff on television, but she might actually watch Joe Rogan in a podcast format because it's a very different type of a format, and you get the opportunity to show the world who you are. So all of these negative things that people are saying about you, you're either going to prove these people right, or you're going to show the world that these people have been lying about you. Kamala could give herself that chance. Kamala could go on Joe Rogan, and if anything that the right has been saying about her is wrong, she's going to prove them wrong by being whoever it is that she is. So my question is, if that's exactly what would happen, and I think it would, if they were wrong, are they wrong if she's choosing to not go? I mean, like that's you see that out there, and so why is she so afraid to just sit down and have a conversation? It's 3 hours long. We do this all the time. Like, we sit down and we have these 3 hour long conversations. People watch. I think people watch because this format is real. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they said, you know what? Like, I just want to see real people. A lot of us are here. I'm here because I was engaged with you in chat prior to this, and it's a format where we actually feel like we have real democracy going on, real free speech going on, real exchange of ideas. We might be able to even be swayed. It feels very open-minded because we learn so much from each other. And, Lauren often has viewpoints that are different than the rest of the panel, and it's great to hear because it's like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that, and that's wonderful. I love that when I hear something that I go, man, I didn't think of that idea before. And when you have formats like this, and even the long debates that Lauren was talking about, the long form debates where people can actually butt heads and exchange their ideas, as a viewer, you kind of get, okay, this is great because I'm learning something I didn't know before. And that's the whole point. To have an electorate that actually is more educated about who these candidates are, what they stand for, what their policies are, and where I'm going to be. How am I going to be affected by this man or woman who gets into power? I want to know that at the end of the day. And this type of format helps a lot more. To Marvin's point, like what he said, it helps me a lot more than somebody going on a late night show for 10 minutes.
Which is why, by the way, it could be a threat to the intelligentsia. Nolan, I'm going to give you the final word on this. Take it and run.
I think that was beautifully said by Ron. And to follow that up, I think it comes from a major drive that all of us have, no matter what age. You know, we can go all old man on the rocking chair mode and be like, these kids today, all they care about are their apps on their newfangled phones. Like, at the end of the day, no matter how much of a loner you are, or sad or happy of a place you're at, we all have this deep drive for human connection. We all want it, whether we want to admit it or not. And when you have these kind of shows like the Pro Show here or the Joe Rogan Experience, you get more quality time because it's natural. The longer, the more hours you spend with someone, the more you truly learn about them. It's not like those artificial puff pieces by the news outlets or the 5 minutes you can see of a YouTuber putting on his best show forward. You get authenticness, and the people are going to go wherever they can find that. And to bring it back, Pro, to your original philosophical question, I remember seeing here recently, and it's really hard to find what is fact and fiction, especially in this kind of season of the year. But I thought I had seen something, and it was comparing what organizations had funded certain candidates. To not go too deep in the weeds with that, the mother of this site we're resigning on right now put some money towards one side of the aisle. And I think if I'm in their position, if they decide they want to crack down and go towards the legacy news media, where they want things to be more on the traditional news sense, where things are very artificial, you're only going to see people for a very short amount of time, they are going to flock to that of an Elon Musk or someone else in a very powerful position who's going to vouch for free speech, because one way or another, people are going to do that. And I feel like if this company decides to get away from that, they could sign their own death sentence. And we know that their competition is getting more and more powerful every day. So I would really hope that they will learn from the past and keep the free speech or something really close to it in these kind of shows on their platform.
That's right. And when you have the opportunity to have something do like 80, 90, 100 million views in a week or 2 weeks, let it roll. That's what I say. Let it roll, and let human conversations from every aisle, from every point of view, let them roll. I get there have to be parameters somewhere, but generally, as a rule, more conversation is better, because more conversation not only lets those who can elucidate a great idea do so, but it also puts those with really, really bad ideas in the light. And you want them in the light so you know exactly who they are, what they believe, and why you should stay away from it. And folks, we have come to the end yet again. Another video of excellence in the can. What a joy it has been to share time with you. We hope you enjoyed it as well. If so, consider clicking that like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. And as always, drop a comment down below. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join a community dialogue today, just on down below. Folks, we are going to say farewell for now, but we will see you back for is more, and that's how many videos we put out every single day here on the Pro Channel. Hope you enjoy them all. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.